traders at UBA say investors are adopting a wait-and-see approach as they focus on the outcome of today's 265.5 billion Treasury bills auction following the subscription levels recorded from Monday's 2.5 trillion naira bond auction. Chuka Nwachukwu, head of ALM and Balance Sheet Management, joins me to assess this year's auctions and investment appetite of investors. Chuka, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today.
Thank you, Esther.
Well, it's midweek and it's a Treasury bills auction today. 265.5 billion naira is what the DMO will be offering today. But talk to us about expectations around subscription levels and stop rates. Not too long ago, over about 1 trillion naira was raised, and I remember the CBN governor saying the country was able to get about $400 million from foreign investors who participated in that auction. Of course, all geared towards strengthening the naira and boosting FX reserves. Talk to us about expectations for this auction.
Thank you, Esther. Today we have over 265 billion on offer. The last auction, like you rightly mentioned, printed at 19%. That auction, 1 trillion was offered and sold as well. So the expectation is that we see within that 19% levels, probably around 18.5, because the last 1 year is currently trading around 17.5. With improved system liquidity, we probably see subscription well over what is offered, and the expectation is that the yield will come out within the range of 18.5, 19%.
Well, speaking about liquidity, when the DMO offered at the bond auction on Monday at 2.5 trillion, was only able to raise 1.49 trillion. The issue of liquidity also came up. How much, what extent can the market liquidity absorb such a large amount, 2.5 trillion? And I suppose we got the answer to that. Just 1.9 or 1.49 trillion was sold at the end of the day. Talk to us about market liquidity levels and going forward. Obviously, this government, with the size of the budget, the depreciating naira, this government needs to borrow more, and it's indicated that by coming with that strong push at the domestic end of the market. But market response is another thing. Talk to us about, this ambitious plan to raise such a huge amount of money and market liquidity levels.
Absolutely, you're right. From all indication, the government has shown that it really needs to borrow more, and that is why we saw the unprecedented volume of on offer at the last bond auction, which was around 2.5 trillion, like you rightly mentioned. It's a short-term strategy. Like the CBN governor mentioned, the last auction, the government was able to raise about $400 million, and I think that's what exactly they are trying to do. They are trying to look for other means in order to increase supply into the economy in order to ease the exchange rate pressure. And so I believe that also one of the key players of the auction, or one of the key indicators of auction, is the liquidity, like you rightly mentioned. The system is really tight. I believe that the 1.4 trillion that was sold at the last auction could have been much higher if the liquidity was we didn't have the liquidity issue. Currently, the system liquidity is around 300 to 400 billion, and today's bond auction settlement, we expect that the liquidity to also reduce further. And so between now and the end of the week, we see system liquidity continue to tighten more, except the only thing we expect liquidity to improve, hopefully it should be next week when FAC comes in. Other than that, the system will continue to be very tight.
Right. Now, in your notes, you did mention that yesterday there was some cherry picking by investors on select maturities, and just a few trades were executed. Could you give us more insight on that?
Yeah, so the few liquidity in the system, of course, investors tend to buy, especially on the longer end of the curve, on the bond side especially. And what we've seen so far is that the major players in these auctions have been the local. And so, like I said earlier, the the activity is being hampered by liquidity constraint. And so another factor again why the market has been very quiet is also the MPC meeting, which is next week. The all indication that the CBN will hike rate, and so people are being very cautious, going into a position.
Right, so we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Chuka, for bringing us up to speed. Appreciate your time on the show today. Chuka Nwachukwu, head of ALM and Balance Sheet Management, bringing us up to speed on trading at Nigeria's fixed income market so far this